Hey, what's up guys? Today I wanted to talk about Dragon's Dogma 2 because I've seen that this game gets a lot of hate, but I still wanted to check it out and see if it was really as bad as everybody is saying. So I recently bought it and played it. I'm not completely finished with the story yet, but I think I have gotten pretty far and played enough to share my opinion on it. So yeah, first off, let me clarify, the criticisms of the game are justified. And the game does a lot of stuff that is just kind of questionable, I guess. The main criticism that I saw was the DLC, if you can even call it that. It's more like microtransactions. Basically, you can buy a bunch of shit on the Steam store, which shouldn't be even available to buy. It's just basic game mechanics like reviving when you die, and I think it's pretty unnecessary, and the game suffers a lot from those decisions. For example, fast traveling. I don't know whose idea it was to lock fast travel behind an item, but that has to be the most terrible idea I've ever seen, and especially the lack of these fast travel points over the map, and that you can't even use them without the item. You can't even interact with it. You just stand there looking at the stone. It's really confusing because the game is huge. It has a giant map. And every time I'm going somewhere, I'm just thinking about the backtracking, and I'm like, do I really want to walk half the map over there and then walk half the map back again? Because I mean, look at it, you can buy a tent. That's basically a place where you rest at and heal your group. Like in Baldur's Gate, you know? You set up camp and hang out with your followers and heal. But they put that behind a paywall. Not that like you can't get tents in-game, you can obviously, but you can also buy them on the Steam store, which is just bizarre to me. And then you can also buy these rift crystals, which you can use for stuff like followers and pawns and accessories for some reason, and the accessories are excessively expensive. That's a tongue twister if I've ever seen one. But yeah, on Steam you can just buy the fucking stone that revives you, and the tent, fucking amulet, incense, music. You have to buy a DLC to change in-game music. Who came up with that idea? Like, nobody has done that before. But that doesn't mean it's innovative or a good idea. You should be more original in other aspects of the game, to be honest with you. That's the first negative. Let me get to a positive point, which is the enemy design. Oh my god. It's crazy, I love it. These bosses are huge and so detailed, and their animations and movement are just so awesome. And I don't think I've ever had so many boss fights feel so epic and awesome, you know? It's kind of like comparable to Monster Hunter in a little bit, because you basically, you know, you can climb the monster and hit it, and they have like weaknesses and strengths, so which you can like abuse, and you gather ingredients from them to make your weapon stronger. So in that sense it's really similar to Monster Hunter, but the combat is completely different. But yeah, I really love the enemy designs, and every time a boss fight is there, it's just awesome. But at the start it's really tough, especially because the followers don't have the best AI, and 90% of the time I went in first as a mage, and I'll get to that later on. But yeah, the enemies are amazing. That's definitely a positive of the game. Next up we have the world, and I'm kind of conflicted on this point. I wanna say it's a positive, but I don't know. Some of the dungeons, or most of the dungeons, feel really linear and repetitive. Like the second dungeon I went into, I already knew what was gonna happen. There's always like an ambush from an enemy in like a corridor or something, and then there's like a bigger part of the dungeon where you fight another group of enemies, and then there's a chest at the end. Maybe like one hidden path where you can go and find something else. It's really meh. but the world looks beautiful, and I mean, the atmosphere in this game is also just sick. I like it a lot, but the fact that you can't fast travel without these fucking stones, I don't know, man. I think that goes like in between the middle. Not like, it has a lot of good aspects, but the bad aspects really pull it down. Next up is the combat, and I mean, I can't talk completely about everything because I have only played as a mage until now, or a sorcerer as well, but basically a similar class. I wasn't equipped with a sword or an arrow or whatever. I always use magic because I fucking love how this magic works in this game. The spells just feel really awesome and powerful, you know, like how I always imagined the classical fantasy wizard with a staff and doing like an incantation before you cast the spell. I thought that was really awesome, but also kind of a negative point of the class because you need to have a partner. Without a partner, you're fucked, and most of the time in the game you are the one that engages the combat. So imagine this: you are a wimpy ass mage exploring the map. Your followers, because of their shitty AI, are like 100 feet behind you somewhere. You get ambushed by an enemy. You can't cast any spell since you get interrupted all the fucking time, and it takes like 10 seconds to cast a spell. Only choice really is to just jump and get the fuck out of there, levitate or something, and do some basic hits. But I don't know, there were too many times when my team was lagging behind and I had to pay the price for it. Basically, I got fucked and died a lot to that because you just end up getting juggled by the enemy. But I mean, the spells themselves are really fun and just awesome to use. I especially love the ice spell where you do like a Todoroki ice wall. Holy shit, man, that was fucking cool. And the levitating is also kind of fun, but I can see how it's useful, but it's not useful in the way I had hoped it would be. Like, you know, I thought it was gonna be something like where you levitate to get out of danger and buy yourself some time to cast, but you jump, and then you levitate, and then you can cast a spell. But your levitation doesn't last as long as your incantation, at least at the point where I'm at. Maybe there's an upgrade for it or something. And yeah, I mean, on its own, it's probably the weakest class because when you're alone, you can't do anything with it, really. From what I've seen my followers do, I like the two-handed class and the berserker class. Is that what it's called? But yeah, I just made like a big lion boy because I thought the cats were really cool and he looks menacing as fuck. But yeah, he just smacked enemies all around the map. It's awesome to see every time, and he can do like a combo move with you where he pushes you up and you can grab like a big enemy and climb them and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool as well. So yeah, combat, I think it's a positive. I've yet to check out the other classes, but I feel like from what I've seen, it's pretty good. So magic on its own, I would say it's a positive. I like it really a lot, and there are downsides to it obviously, like I just said, but I like it a lot. So I'm just gonna put that in positive, to be honest. So something else, clunky movement. This is obviously a negative point, but movement in this game is kind of clunky. It feels like you're playing a PS3 game, you know? Not that PS3 games are all clunky, but I mean like the mediocre PS3 ones. Maybe I'm just spoiled after so many games with great movement, but I don't know. Witcher 3 is similar to it. You can run and jump, and you're not the fastest or anything, but Dragon's Dogma 2 just feels stiff, you know? The jumping and the climbing, I don't know. It feels like it wasn't really well implemented for all the parts of the map and stuff. Clunky movement is definitely a negative for me. Next up is the character creator, and I mean, oh my god. I don't think I've ever had as much fun making a character as I did in this game. Little side note, little self advertisement here, but I'm an artist as well. and I like to draw a lot, and I'm currently working on my own comic, so I just thought I'd recreate the main character of my comic in the game, in the character creator, and I think it worked pretty well. Let me know what you think, how accurate I nailed the character, but I'm pretty satisfied with it. Especially the scars, you know. Now, one negative I have are the hairstyles, and I don't know why, but ever since video games started putting male and female hair into one category, which isn't a problem by itself, it feels like they just put less effort into it, you know? Like, instead of having two categories with like both of them having an equal amount of hairstyles and variety, basically, for guys it's basically just slick back hair or bald or long hair with a ponytail or something. I don't know, I just missed some variety and it's not as good as it could have been in that aspect. But yeah, overall I was pretty impressed. You can get really detailed if you want to, and that's awesome. So yeah, that's a positive for me. So originally I had like 3 points that I wanted to talk about here, but I'll just combine them into one, which is basically cringe dialogue, pawns, and AI. But all of those are really mostly about the same thing, the pawns. And at the start of the game I had really high hopes for it. They start off real great, like, oh, you're the Arisen, you're like the rightful king of this land that you're in. And then you get to create like your own followers who like worship you and stuff. But once you actually go out on an adventure, you find out your followers are just sassy pricks, every one of them. You know, you're supposed to be their master and their king basically, but they don't respect you at all. Like, I'm saying, they will talk shit on you every chance they get and comment on something you did or you're doing. They can't shut the fuck up. That's another point. Like, I started the game, I loaded the game, and in the span of like 10 seconds one of my followers had like 4 voice lines. I don't know who thought that was a good idea to have them yap that much, but it was not.
Ah, look, there are rare materials yonder, just waiting to be harvested.
Well, well, that's quite a discovery. I see you cannot manage without me for a moment, Arisen. 'Tis our first time setting foot in this place, but I trust we'll muddle through.
If any creature dares ambush us, I shall be ready for them. Over so soon? Why, we seem to have come through unscathed.
No doubt this triumph will spur us into the next. A hidden path? I suppose there will be monsters lurking beyond it.
I've a feeling 'tis best left untravelled. Am I the only one?
But there's another aspect that makes this even worse, which is the dialogue. I get what they were trying to do, like a medieval type of vibe to the dialogue and stuff, but it's not natural to the voice actors to talk like that, and you notice that a lot. It feels like some dude just reading off a script. The voice lines are rarely like actually emotional or convincing that they're actual characters. They all just feel like NPCs, was what I'm saying. Their dialogue is not convincing me that they are actually people living in that world. The dialogue is always just very flat and proper. I don't know how to explain it. They're very polite and act a lot on how they say things, and everybody talks in the same way. I don't know. It just gets stale after like the first hour. The AI of the pawns is also another point. My god. I've never seen such clunky controls for an AI. You can command them and tell them to do stuff, or like, you know, come to me, protect me, wait here, go there, stuff like that. 9 times out of 10, they won't react instantly. They'll take their sweet ass time. You say, come to me. No, I'd rather keep fighting this guy over here before I come to you. It's kind of frustrating, because as a mage, I need my followers there at all times, and most of the time they're fucking off somewhere else, stuck behind a rock or something. And then they'll talk shit on me, that I'm too fast for them or some shit like, oh, we can't keep the pace, Arisen. Why are you going so fast? Shut up, I'm your king. But the worst part for me from the pawns is definitely just the way they treat you. Game sets it up for you to be like their master and their reason to live. You know, they only exist to serve you basically. But these people act like you're a child constantly. Here we can go here. The next quest. Do you want me to guide you? Do you want me to hold your hand and show you the way? Even though there's a fucking waypoint there. Just feels, what's the word for it? Is it patronizing? I don't know if I'm using that word right. I'd say the pawns are negative. Oh yeah, one other thing I almost forgot. There are so many pawns in the world, and every time you walk past one of them, they just talk to you and tell you some shit.
You can count on me to fly to your aid in your hour of need, Master. Knowing when...
Thanks for telling me that. I didn't want to talk to you. I guess I'll just go now. It's been a long time, but this game made me cringe sometimes with this dialogue, and that hasn't happened a long time for me in a game. So, leveling and classes. I personally haven't tried every class yet. As I said, I was a mage and a sorcerer, but from what I've seen, it's a pretty decent system. I haven't yet found every class, so I don't know what the scale is of the classes and leveling and stuff. If it's comparable to like Baldur's Gate or something. But from what I've seen, it's pretty cool. And every time you level up, it feels very substantial and like, oh shit, okay, now I gotta go back to the guild and check out the new spells I unlocked. Every time you level up, there's like a cool spell to find and try out, you know. And I really enjoy that. That's probably the thing I'm looking forward to the most when I'm playing. Just leveling up and going back, getting new skills. So yeah, from what I've seen so far, leveling and classes are definitely a positive point to me. Now we get to the last one, the last point, but also probably the biggest point is the performance. I mean, I commend them. The game is like 60 gigabytes big, and that's like half of what you would expect today, but performance isn't good. I had to tweak the settings so much. It's actually insane. Especially trying to get the game to run smoothly and not look like dog shit. It's crazy. I mean, look at this. I must have spent at least like 20 minutes just in the settings fixing all of this. I can deal with shitty graphics, especially since the graphics aren't shitty in this game. Even on low, they look pretty decent. But yeah, if you are one of those guys who needs to play in 4K on Ultra, I would recommend playing it. The performance is pretty sucky, especially in cities and places where there's a lot of people. It just drops bad sometimes. And I don't even have ray tracing enabled. But to be fair, ray tracing doesn't even make that much of a difference in this game. Yeah, the performance sadly goes into the negatives as well. So here's the conclusion, alright? I would rate this game a 7 out of 10. Because if you buy the normal game without all the DLC shit, it's actually a really enjoyable RPG. If you don't interact with those microtransaction DLC things, whatever it is. But it also gets held back a lot by these tedious things. For example, the fast traveling or the pawns, which were supposed to be like a really big part of the game, but they kind of suck. Quality wise, I think it's comparable to Baldur's Gate 3. And I don't mean polishing, alright? Just quality, the way it's presented. The budget of the game, basically. It has very good graphics, the effects look great, the classes are fun. In general, you can tell that this is a very high budget, expensive game. So in that sense, Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon's Dogma 2 are comparable, but the reason that Baldur's Gate 3 was the game of the year and Dragon's Dogma 2 won't be, I think that's fair to say. I don't think this game will win Game of the Year, but Baldur's Gate 3 had way better characters, way better. Traveling with them and talking to them was fun, and I looked forward to that. You know, every time I progressed in the story of one of the followers, I was interested in what they had to say, and I was invested in their story. But the pawns in this game don't have any story. They are there for you. They don't have any personality, really. They're just there for you. I don't think we can compare the combat of the two games because they're so vastly different, but I like Baldur's Gate 3 more just because there was such a huge amount of stuff you could do and effects you had and like ways you can manipulate the battle and like the surroundings and stuff, which is kind of present in the game, but not really. If you burn a straw roof, you won't burn the house down, it will just fade away after a bit. If you do a freeze spell on water, it won't freeze the water, at least for, as far as I could tell. It freezes like slime enemies and stuff, but the environment isn't very affected by the combat as far as I've seen. But in my opinion, Dragon's Dogma 2 has the better enemies and boss fights. Baldur's Gate 3 has some awesome boss fights, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing like being thrown into the first boss fight of the game and it's a huge ass dragon. I couldn't stop but think about Smaug and how amazing Smaug was in The Hobbit. The scale and the detail on the dragon, it was just amazing. But also on every other enemy. I remember at the start of the game I was walking through like the scripted path and I was just walking with my pawns to the next quest. All of a sudden the fucking ogre, cyclops, whatever you call them, popped out of nowhere. You fight that guy, you think you're fucked. All of a sudden there's a huge stream of water just flushing that bitch away. I don't know what was going on, but my mind was kind of blown in that moment. It was kind of crazy. And every boss fight so far has just been crazy, you know. I like them so much, especially since all of them have such great designs and you can climb on them to get like a real good look on them. I don't know, it's pretty sick. But overall I'd say Baldur's Gate 3 is obviously a better game and I enjoyed it more. There were a lot less things that I found tedious and annoying. But if you are an RPG fan, don't let the bad reviews deter you from trying it. Wait until the next test period for this game and check it out. You can play it for like 2 hours then, and that should make up your mind on whether you should buy the game or not. If you like the general gameplay, then I'd recommend buying it, since that's like the best part of the game, and you aren't necessarily forced to interact with the microtransactions if you don't want to. But yeah, overall this game is definitely a solid 7 out of 10 for me, and those 3 points are honestly just because of all these stupid mechanics that they put in the game. It could have been a 10 out of 10. I can definitely see the potential, but there was just too much stuff wrong with it. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video since games easily get bad reviews today and it's very hard to see a different opinion. You know, the internet is like an echo chamber, especially YouTube. Once you watch a video of a certain YouTuber with a certain point of view, you will get recommended other YouTubers with the same point of view, and that just, you know, it's like an endless cycle of the same opinion being spread by like 50 different people to their audiences, and then those audiences share the same opinion and share that on the internet. It's important to just take a step back, even if your favorite YouTuber hates the game, and make up your opinion on your own, you know? That's what life is for. Try things out and make up your own mind. Don't just listen to some dude on YouTube. That includes me. But yeah, a lot of discourse of this game on the internet is just blowing the criticism out of proportion, and I actually enjoyed the game, so I just wanted to tell you guys, hey, it's not that bad, okay? It is kind of bad, but not that bad.